If you were born in the mid-90s, then you grew up in the Pokemon era, during a time in the early 2000s that was known as Pokemania. It was a great time and I have a lot of fond memories of it, but I also have some not so great and unusual memories of it, and I'm going to be sharing those memories 5 at a time in every video. And I'm going to be going from least unusual to most unusual and unique for myself. So, I'm going to jump right into it, because everyone played Pokemon, and besides playing with water guns and riding your bikes back in the day, it was one of the major pastimes with your friends during the Game Boy era. So let's jump right into it. Number 5. I remember vividly, and I'm sure most people remember quite vividly, giving the rival character a profane name, something I'm not going to say here. Now, if there was a reason why, it was probably because in the older games it took only one playthrough to realize in either red, blue, green, or gold, silver, and crystal that both blue and silver were actually pretty much what those profane names described. They were a-holes and they were f-wipes or a-wipes. So giving the rival profile names seemed pretty natural by the way they act, and it was the best way to forgive and forget. Number 4. Leveling up like crazy. Let me elaborate. I'll start with the story. During a family gathering one day, me and my friends were sitting around. We all had our Game Boys in our hands. Some of us had colors, some of us had advanced, some of us cool kids of course. And we were discussing an unusual topic. It was not the present levels of our Pokemon that we were discussing. Most of the time you would say something like, oh, I have this level of a Pokemon right now. I have a level 30 Blastoise, I have a level 50 Aerodactyl, etc, etc. But we were actually discussing something pretty unusual. At what point they reached those levels. Are you confused? Well, let me elaborate. I told my friend I had gotten my Pokemon to around their early level 30s by the time I'd reached Celadon City, which was pretty much above average without extra training before challenging Erica. Plus I had Charizard, so did it really matter? To this my friend actually responded that he had gotten his starter to level 30 and met Moon. Mountain Moon. Can you imagine? With a battling diet of Zubat and the occasional Geodude. To this day, I don't know if he was joking around or being serious, but he sure did show that he had a lot more patience and time than I did. A lot. Number 3. Having only male Pokemon on my team. This is pretty common among gamers Generation 2 and beyond when genders were introduced. I'm guilty as charged for being one of those people who would take only male Pokemon, even if the female was at a higher level, had a better nature, or even was a shiny Pokemon. On the other hand, I noticed most female Pokemon gamers in my friend circle didn't seem to mind whether they had males or females. Keep in mind, this was still the early 2000s, so most of us were still around between the ages of 6 and 11 and 12, so we were still in the girls have cooties stage. We thought that if we came into contact with any girl, whether it be a human girl or a Pokemon girl, we would catch on fire. Number 2. Now this is something unusual that my friend did, and it wasn't something pretty unusual for the time because we were kids and we thought that strong plus strong plus strong equaled even more strong, which is not really the case if you have weaknesses to those strong. Let me elaborate. My friend had a team of Dragonites. Let me say it again, my friend had a team of Dragonites. Does that sound unusual at all? No. But I'm talking about a team of 6 Dragonites, including one that he had just gotten to level 55 that was sitting in the PC box. What were you doing with your time? And why did you choose just Dragonites? His argument was that since Dragonite could learn a bunch of elemental moves, it would be able to take down any type of Pokemon. I argued that if I could take him down first, that wouldn't matter. And he challenged me to a battle, of course. Of course, he was beating everyone to the ground who had no idea about Pokemon weaknesses, because everyone was like Ash Ketchum, thinking that if you had a type disadvantage, you would miraculously win the battle. Of course, Dragonite was one of the stronger Pokemons back then, and was the Pseudo legendary for the time, meaning it was the strongest non-legendary Pokemon in the game stat-wise. And it was a dragon type, and it had fairly few weaknesses back then. Dragon and ice, and that was it. There were very few dragon moves, and ice moves were a dime in a dozen. So what did I do? I created a team of ice types. And not just one ice type. I also had water types. I had Lapras, I had Kingler, I had Dugong, I had an Articuno, which only seemed fair because it was 6 Pasueto legendaries to 1 legendary. And I don't exactly remember what other Pokemon I had, but I think I had a Jinx. And needless to say, I won, because I was able to attack first, or at least able to hold on. This was back in the days of the link cable, so we didn't battle again due to the syncing being a huge issue, and I'll go into more depth in that in another video if you request it. And now we go to number 1 on the list. Now this one is a trait that stuck with me alone while I watched the anime. I was tired of the same 3 starters, and I was starting to get bored with fire, water, and grass. That meant getting Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Cyndaquil, Totodile, and Chikorita. Pokemon 101. And I wanted to be more like that youngster Joey, or be more like that rival. And now I'm going to elaborate on what this did to me later. It actually creates a ton of possibilities and a ton of weird stories that could make a ton of more videos. But I'm going to be talking about what started it all, and that was getting tired of the same starter. I remember choosing a Cyndaquil as usual, and this time I took it straight to the Pokemon PC as soon as I caught a Rattata, and I released it. Yes, you heard me correctly, I said I released it. Now why would I do that? Well, again, I was getting tired of having fire, water, and grass. So I wanted to start with a normal type. I wanted to be more like Ash Ketchum, but I couldn't find a Pikachu, so I thought a Rattata would be good more or less. And that's exactly what I did. I traveled the world far and wide with a Rattata. And I ended up catching a Bellsprout, so I ended up essentially becoming a clone of Joey. Yes, youngster Joey, for those of you who remember him, who had a Bellsprout and Rattata, and you can battle him several times. It was an unusual time. If you like this video, why not subscribe? Maybe leave a like on Facebook, maybe a like on Google+, maybe a follow on Twitter. Thanks for watching.